All right, we're on. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the English 2 Squad. Really happy to see you all. Hope you had a good weekend. This video is going to be, I think, sort of a live video of me finishing my PowerPoint. I'm going to finish finding all three of my key points for my research. I'm going to reflect on conclusions and future directions. I'm going to include my Works Cited page. Almost forgot about that. And then I'm going to upload my presentation to Classroom. Once again, if you need to, I think, just skip around to, I think, one part of this to see what you need to, I think, look at, feel free to skip around. There will be timestamps, I think, below. Once again, if you need to, I think, just skip around a little bit. There will be no Google Hangout this week. Thank you to everyone who came on Friday. It was a lot of fun. That being said, we will still have office hours, I think, 12 p.m. To 2 p.m. every day. I'll be on from 12 to 1. Mr. Ramos will be on from 1 to 2. If you want to work on our time, totally cool. Just shoot us a text, and we're happy to, I think, work it out. All right. So before I jump in, quick reminder of the requirements. So as you all know, there were, I think, the requirements for the assignment. You need to have an introduction. You need to have three important things you've learned from your research. These are your key points. We'd recommend, I think, doing one each for economic, social, and political perspectives. You want to back it up with at least three pieces of research from your research log. You want to include a conclusion, and you want to include a works cited page. And most importantly, we want it to be fun for all of you. We want you to really enjoy, I think, working on this, and to honor and celebrate the really incredible work you put into, I think, like your topics. So, have fun. Let's see what we did. I have my intro. I have my research question. I've got like my background and key terms, and I got two of these done. So looks like I'm going to be working on my last key point for today. The last time I was working on this project, I was still thinking about my third key point, but I think that I thought about it a little bit, and I think I have a good idea of what I want to say. I'm actually going to begin by, I think, writing, I think, kind of a rough idea of what I want to say. I was thinking a lot about culture this weekend, and part of why I think like I want to talk about, I think, abuse in the Korean community is because I think like there's a lot of cultural factors that make it hard for people to speak up about abuse. So I think the way I'd say it is I think cultural conflicts can, I think, like make it harder for victims to speak out. Let's go to my research tracker right now. As a reminder, you can use a direct quote or I think summarize in your own words. So I think using bullet points. But I'm gonna go to my research first. I already know the first thing I want to use. There's a really good article I found. Kind of a terrible story. Like this old man in a Korean church in LA, I think like was arrested for beating a Korean American teenager. And it turned out that I think that boy's parents had actually asked him to, I think, sort of step in and discipline their son. So really interesting story. Really goes into, I think, like the role that I think religion and churches play in abuse. And the article talks about a culture clash, or a conflict between, I think, two different cultures. So yeah, I think I see the quotes here. I actually think I already know how I want to explain this, because I think I can put it into my own words. So I'm just going to do that right now. I'm going to say, let's say, I think like the cultural differences between, I think, like how Korea and the US, I think, treats abuse often leads to, I think, abuse being harder to talk about. And I would say that's, I think, very fair, right? Because I think the article is talking about, I think, a story where I think someone, I think, is actually arrested for abusing, I think, someone in their community, and there's this misunderstanding about the Korean way of doing things, and I wouldn't say that means I think that the abuse is justified because that would never be okay. I would say, however, that there are definitely, I think, like an older generation of people, I think like whom abuse is very normal. Like I think like for people like that old man, I think like that actually might have been I think his way of I think like being a responsible parent or a responsible I think adult. Um, I think like maybe one thing I'd add is that I think that like it leads to cultural misunderstandings, yeah. And then this makes it harder to have honest I think like conversations about abuse. So I'm gonna stop there. Um, and then there's the other article I think that relates to that point. Where did I find that? Oh, okay, it was over here. Yeah, this was really memorable to me. Because it was like a story about this woman, Kida, who actually talked a lot about how hard it was for her to I think report her abuser. And the quote I think that's really interesting here is Kida ultimately sought help. However, she felt deeply ashamed at having to condemn her Korean cultural roots in order to be granted the legal right to stay in the United States. For Kide, the disgrace of dishonoring her country of origin equaled that of being beaten by her husband. And when I read that, I told you already, but it kind of blew my mind. Um, I didn't realize that for a lot of, I think, like older Korean people, I think there is that connection to their culture, right? And I think that like that makes it really hard when you feel like you have to, I think, like blame your culture or I think like talk about the negative side of your culture to people who already don't understand. I think like the cultural background that a lot of Korean Americans have. Um, so I think like for a lot of people, it's this real dilemma, right? Like, do I get help, or do I protect? I think like sort of the image of I think Korean culture, even if that means I have to suffer the abuse that is happening. And I would say a good way of paraphrasing it would be that I think like many Korean abuse victims, I think feel stuck between defending their culture and seeking help. So cultural conflict, I think, would be a big difference. Um, so those are two. So I have my 2 points. Um, I'm gonna be real here. I actually really don't like um, how long that bullet point is. I think it just kind of feels too clunky. It's a lot of text. So I'd say cultures between I think Korea and the U.S. Um, maybe lead to I think like misunderstandings about abuse and and you could say making it harder to have honest conversations. Yeah, that's a lot more I think like short. I think like and sweet. So I feel better about that. Um, I think yeah, there's room for an image, right? So let's see what we can find. Cultural conflict, I think, is kind of the first thing that comes to mind. I don't know if there's going to be any positive images that come out of this. Yeah, I don't know. These don't feel like they're totally where I'm at. Is there like Korean? Is there the Asian? That's not helpful at all. Okay. Ooh, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Oh, okay. Wait, hold up. I bet like if I feel like I bet there if I typed in Korean American flag, I kind of like that actually. Yeah, there's actually a cool image over here. Maybe if I do Korean flag and American flag, like the U.S. flag, I get no. I think a lot of these similar images, but like, but I do get I think like this good one. I think I wonder if I can just think like borrow it and then I'll crop it because I think the idea I think is the same, right? I think like you're kind of between two cultures. Um, there we go. I'm just gonna crop that because I don't want to have that random little URL there. And yeah, that looks good. I am done. And I think one more thing I'm going to do is I think just I'll put a church in that image because I think one of the articles I had was about a church. Ooh, this one's good. I really like that. Yeah, that actually, wow, I didn't even realize that, but that actually captures like exactly what I'm talking about. I'm just like, it has like the religion, has to think like, sort of the pain that a lot of people go through. Like, weirdly, that's actually kind of perfect for what I want to do. Wild. All right. I should be laughing about this, but I'm like, sometimes, I think like I think like get really lucky, and it's always kind of nice when that happens. Very strange. All right, so I got my two images there, and that is it. Yep, I have my key points. I have one that is kind of economic. It's about money. I have one that's kind of I think about the laws and the government, and I have one that's about I think culture, which makes it social. Fantastic. So now I have to move on to the conclusions and future directions. And this should be, I think, pretty straightforward. Um, for the conclusion, you want to, I think, capture 1 to 2 bullet points that really, I think, sort of bring together everything you've learned about your topic. So the question to think about is really, when you put together all of the information you have, what have you learned? Um, and this is kind of where you can sort of combine all of your ideas and think about really the deeper ideas, the deeper connections, I think, like the deeper sort of understanding that you've come to. Another way of thinking about it is really, what needs to change, right? I mean, these issues are really complicated and they're really, really hard to think about addressing. But you have knowledge now. You have, I think, a lot more information about the topic. So knowing what you know already, what would you say needs to change in our culture or in our world for this to, I think, like be less of an issue, or for people to, I think, like be able to live better lives? So I would say two things. One thing I've learned is definitely I think that like I thought that abuse was about I think the individual, right? I think like there are people I think who are abusers, and there are people I think who do these things to other people, and I think that is still true, but I think that it's not just about I think like the person abusing and the person who's getting abused. It's also about I think society, like about I think the abuser and the victim. It's also about handles the issue, right? I mean, I'm thinking about I think like how we handle poverty, how we handle citizenship, and how we handle I think sort of sort of law enforcement. I think sort of all impact I think like Korean American abuse victims. And we don't think about these things being connected to I think abuse all the time, but I think they totally are, right? Um, and like I think if you want to, I think, tackle abuse, I think you actually have to tackle all of these other things. Like you have to tackle poverty. You have to tackle, I think, like what we do with people who are undocumented in our society. You have to tackle the way I think like we treat people I think who are arrested. I think um, and is there a better way of handling all of these things? So I would say maybe I think the bigger issue is actually it's connected to so many other issues. So yeah, first thing I think I've learned is that domestic abuse isn't just about the abuser and victim. It's connected to so many other social issues. How we handle issues like poverty, citizenship, and law enforcement will all impact, I think, abuse victims. And I think if I had to add one more bullet point, I'm going kind of long, but I would say that we really need to, I think, like do a better job of understanding, I think, Korean American culture, right? I think service providers um, need to do, I think understanding and reaching out to Korean American survivors. So yeah, those are my 2 points. I think one big thing that I sort of took away from my entire project, and I also have think like sort of one thing I think could change or I think could be a solution to the issue. One more thing I would say is you have I think future directions. So this project I think was over the last 2 months, but obviously there's a lot more out there. So one thing to think about is if you want to keep engaging in topic and you want to I think learn more about it and learn about what you can do about it, what would you like to learn more about? What would you like to do in the future? And I'd say um, I'd like to learn more about the organizations I think we're doing this for because I don't know if y'all know, but when I was before I think I came to LPS, I actually worked at a shelter. I worked I think with these victims, um, and that was my first job I think in college. So I know that there are people out there who are doing like amazing work with Asian Americans and Korean Americans who have been abused, but I'd love to I think just dive more into the issue. What are people doing to support I think Korean and Asian American survivors? So yeah, those are my 2 points. And I really don't know what more to say. I think that's pretty straightforward. But I'm gonna move on to one more point, which is I think just your citations. And this is gonna be really easy. You just have to go to I think your research tracker, and if you have done this, you should have I think a very convenient um, page of citations that you can just loop and just pop on over into your document over here. Um, oh no, okay. I might need to, I think, like make the fonts a little bit smaller. I'm gonna do it right now. Oh, by the way, guys, if you need to, I think just I think like copy, I think, and paste into I think like 2 slides, that's totally fine. So maybe I think the way I'll do it, I think I'll just do I think like the first 2, 3 on this slide. I'll just I think move this down, and then I'll make it a little bit bigger. Gonna do I think like an indentation for snap indentation for each one. And there we go. So I think I can do the other 3 I have on that one. Should be pretty straightforward. Okay. And there you have it. So team, hopefully the video isn't gone too long at this point. But the last thing we're going to do is we are going to go all the way up and we're going to submit this bad boy on Classroom. So you will do this, I think, you're going to do that on the English page, right? But I'm a teacher, so I can't, I think, submit, I think, like works myself. So I am going to go troll our good friend, Mr. Schedl. So this is to show you, I think, how to do it. I'm not saying submit, I think, the project, I think, on the history page. Don't do that. But I want you to, I think, just see, I think, like what it'll look like when you click on it on English. So whenever you have to, I think, turn in work, you should see, I think, like this corner over here, it'll say your work. You'll click on add or create. And then if you, I think, have it on Google Drive, you'll click on Google Drive. And let's see if I can just think, find Mr. Kim's research project. Yay! Oh my god, I wonder how he's gonna think it. I wonder what he'll think about this. I don't know. Maybe this is, I think, like a decolonization project. I mean, I'm talking about, I think, Asian American issues. I feel like perhaps this is appropriate. So you have, I think, attached your work. And once you do that, you'll hit turn in. And then that is it. I'm not gonna actually do it, but I think, just so you know. All right, so that is the video. Y'all are almost there. I am really proud of all of you. I am really excited about the work you're doing. Hang in there, finish strong, and please reach out to me or Mr. Ramos if you need help on this. But you've got this.